The person to my right really needs no introduction for those of us who either grew up or came to Bowler School at some point, anytime probably between the 1960s and current day. This is, of course, Ray Murphy. Ray was a star athlete here in the late 1960s at Bowler High, and then soon thereafter became the full-time head custodian, a job he held for over 40 years. He's recently retired, and of course, thousands of kids here at Bowler School were impacted by Ray Murphy, not just in his duties on a daily basis, but maybe equally as notably as a coach, Ray. You spent a lot of time here impacting the lives of Bowler kids. It's great to see you again, Ray. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's nice being here today. I'm glad Al asked me to come in and speak today. I haven't seen everybody for a while with the pandemic going on. I always wanted to come back and kind of just keep in touch with everybody, see how things are going, so this kind of worked out nice for me today.
I have to share a little story with you, Ray. A couple weeks ago, one of our teachers here, Tim Pluger, was rummaging, cleaning out an old locker or an old file cabinet, and he came across some old basketball clippings from the 50s and 60s. And one of those clippings was from the 1969-70 basketball season, the old Wolf River Valley Conference, and it's a list of the scoring leaders from that year, probably something you remember quite well, that you led the conference in scoring, and one of our guests later today, Dale Clark, actually was runner-up that year. What memories do you have from that 69-70 season?
Well, at that time, it was really a big rivalry between Taggarton and Bowler, because Dale's mother, Mrs. Clark, she was the music teacher here for years and years and years, so we always talked basketball back and forth when we ran into her, and she would always rib us, well, Taggarton's going to beat you tonight, and no, you tell Dale we're going to beat Taggarton tonight, you know, and it kind of went back and forth, and Dale was an outstanding basketball player in his right with Taggarton, so it was always a big rivalry, a big grudge match. In fact, our senior years, it came down to us playing Taggarton in the regional championship game at that time it was the district, it wasn't called regional, it was called the district championship. And it came down to us playing Taggarton in the championship game. And I think I made a layup, kind of a move on Dale, and Dale tried to block it and went in, and we won by 1 point, I think was the final score of that championship game over for the district, and the right to go on to the regionals.
It was, in my opinion, a lot like an episode of Storage Wars with Mr. Pluger finding these old clippings. I didn't put them on eBay. I don't know what they would sell for, Ray, but playing sports in the late 60s here at Bowler High, how did that shape you into the adult that you ultimately became?
Well, back during that time period when we were playing sports, you listened. When the coach said something, there was no disrespect. The coach's word was law. And we kind of grew up that way even with our parents. You know, we always showed respect to our parents. We showed respect to our coach. We showed respect to our school. And we always wanted to do great things for your community, and the things that we did through our school brought a lot of pride into the community. In fact, when I graduated in 1970, our games were all played down in the small gymnasium, which now we have a very nice facility here. But at that time, it was packed. It was standing room only in that small gym, and the atmosphere was just tremendous. It was, and we wanted to convey that on into the future, and it was a tremendous feeling.
So after high school, Ray, tell us a little bit about your life, your career, your family, where you resided, things of that nature.
Well, after I graduated in 1970, I worked with my dad, had a logging business. At that time, there wasn't what you'd call a lot of jobs out there, but I worked with my dad in the logging business, and then I decided to go on to school, which I went to the Wausau Tech over there. I was going to get into residential design, architectural drawing, and things of that nature. Well, in 1972, which my wife Carrie now today, we were high school sweethearts, I guess you could say, and we got married, and we had a son. But that was during the Vietnam War time period, and later in 1972, I got the proverbial letter from the United States government with Uncle Sam pointing a finger at me saying, "We want you," and I was drafted into the United States Army at that time, which at that time I had an option of enlisting or just being drafted and going in, which I had chose to sign up with the Wisconsin Army National Guard at that time in 1972, and I went in at the beginning of 1973 school year.
And of course, now you're a proud grandfather. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, definitely. There isn't a day goes by I don't get to see my grandkids, which is a blessing, because a lot of people don't get to see their grandchildren grow up. You know, you see them at special times of the year, maybe Christmas or Thanksgiving or a birthday. But for us, they just live down the road for us, which is a tremendous asset to us. They come over to the house every day. They're always helping do things around the house. And you can't put a dollar value on how great that feeling is.
You talked a little bit about your service and your years of service. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you ended up there and some of the things that you did while you were in the Army?
Well, when I got drafted, as everybody had during that time period, we were scared. We didn't know what to expect. Being drafted, the Vietnam War was going on, and you heard all the stories about what was going on over in Vietnam, but it was one of the things we had to accept and we had to do. So upon being drafted, I went down to Milwaukee for my physical, I got my orders, and I was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey for my basic training, which we were one of the last groups to ever be drafted during that time period, and we were very fortunate. Upon our 7th week of basic training, orders came down that no more troops were going to be sent overseas. And it was just like the world was taken off our shoulders. You know, we weren't going to have to worry about going to Vietnam or going to another country or anything. And we all just kind of sat in our bunks and talked about what we were going to do now. But then at that time, with our tour of duty wasn't over, so to speak, so we got sent from Fort Dix, New Jersey to Fort Bliss, Texas. Upon going to Fort Bliss, Texas, we were down there for 8 weeks, which then at that time, with all the troops coming home from overseas, there was a shortage of barracks, so they gave us the option to go into a state component like the Wisconsin Army National Guard, which I did. Then I came home from Fort Bliss, Texas 6 months later and served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 12 years.
Wow. Some of your duties while you were in the Army, what do you recall?
Well, when I was drafted, the main reason we were drafted because we were infantry. That was the type of war the Vietnam War was. It was a ground war, an infantry war. And that kind of concerned us a little bit about what was going on. But when we didn't have to go overseas, we got sent to Fort Bliss, Texas, which then we got put in a supply depot, it was called at that time. So we worked in a depot when troops, if they needed different types of equipment, supplies, it was our job to make sure that they got them in a timely fashion and they got them as quick as we could get it to them.
Do you have other memories from those years that still stick with you today?
Well, coming home and serving with the Wisconsin Army National Guard, there was a couple instances where we did get called up to serve the state of Wisconsin. One of the first times was when we got called out, and I'm sure Bowler here has been taught in the history classes, where the novitiate takeover. And when they called up the Wisconsin Army National Guard, everybody thought the Guard is going in and they're going to take over the novitiate and get those people out of there. That's not what we were called up for. We were called up there to keep peace between the Native Americans and the whites so that trouble wouldn't start and hopefully it would end in a peaceful way. Shortly after that, a time period came when Wisconsin employees all went on strike for the prison system. So we had to go down again, we were called upon. We had to go down and be prison guards for 30 days, which that was a total experience in itself, being locked in a cell block with 360 prisoners, and there was only 8 of us. But it was something we had to do, and we did it to the best of our ability, and it turned out okay.
Here, as we talk about and celebrate Veterans Day, what do you think about when you hear that word or that phrase, Veterans Day?
Well, my dad served in the Merchant Marines, and I had 2 uncles that served in the Air Force, and they were paratroopers. And they served during a time period where it was very difficult. War was going on, World War II, and they had to leave their families. And it was tough. And the main thing with those people there, you're just hoping that they're never forgotten. That they remember what they did to make us have the life that we have today.
Absolutely. Ray, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your service to our country. It was great to see you again and great to visit. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I'm glad I got a chance to come back and visit for a little bit today. Thank you.